Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Another quick game of interplanetary I Spy going on here in Gale Crater. Back on Mars again. Lots of stuff to see here. Now, this is the Gigapan, Mars Gigapan. This image was compiled by Nev T or Neville Thompson. Done a good job here. This is made up of loads and loads of images from Sol 319 to 323. So there's a lot of images in here that have been stitched together into this large panoramic. Now we want the one that's on top. There's a lower one here, which is cool, but the one we're looking at is the one on the top here that shows the riverbed around Mount Sharp, at the bottom of Mount Sharp. I will have links to this, and I'll try and find the actual individual image from the NASA site as well to link to show these anomalies. But generally, this is easier to use because you get a bigger overview of the whole area, and it gives you a better perspective and idea of scale when it comes to looking at some of these things. So here we go. I'll go full screen, and what we want to do, where it says southeast there, SE, you want to zoom right in there, and then we want to look just to the left of it, to here. And you can see straight away there's some very odd looking bits of blue sand here, which some of it may well be water. Some of it may just be blue sand, but I'm quite convinced now that some of this down here is actually wet. And the reason why the Rover hasn't crossed over here is because it would get stuck, and it's trying to find a way up the mountain without getting stuck in this wet sand and stuff. So basically, just to the left of where it says southeast there, SE, you've got this thing just here, and I'll zoom right in. And it looks to be at least one shipwreck or boat wreck just here. Now, if you look carefully, you can see the front end here, this light pointed end here on the right, and what looks like a wrecked cabin here with what look like windows and a structure here. Now, I appreciate that's hard to see, especially when you zoom in too close, but you can just about make out the inside of the boat here. There's something on the back of the boat, and this cabin part looks like it's been smashed in. It looks like it's exploded, or maybe the boat was tossed around in a cataclysm or whatever. And there's also something weird going on behind it, which I think is interfering with this a bit slightly, and some of it's overlapping. Now, some of this may be due to where the image was stitched, although this looks like one entire image here, so maybe not. Whether there's any stitch marks going through that particular part, I don't think there are. Maybe not. But, of course, these are taken from quite low-quality JPEGs in the first place. Neville T's done a good job, actually, here. As he usually does. I mean, he does some great work with these Gigapans. But what I'll do, I'll show you the clip I've taken, because it'll be a bit clearer than that, because I've done some enhancements. Now, all I've done is I've used my image clipper. Now, if you are taking image clips from the Gigapan, I suggest you use something like print screen or something like that, that will take bitmap files. Save them as bitmaps, because if you just save it as a JPEG, if you take a screenshot and it comes out as a JPEG, it's only going to be 72 dpi, which is no good for this sort of thing. You need something that's going to do 200 dots per inch. So you need a print screen program that will do that, and I've got one here which is totally free. Where is it? Here it is. It's PRT SCR it's called, and it's got a little picture of a girl with pigtails and a camera. It's actually very good. It will do bitmaps, it will do pings, and it will also do JPEGs. But I always use bitmaps because you don't lose any information from the detail or the photograph that you're looking at. So that's important. So I've got the images up here, and here's the basic clip that I took, which is, I think, this one. And that's completely raw off the screen, as you can see. I've done nothing to that. But even so, at this level of zoom, you can see there's a boat shape here with what looks like a smashed up cabin just there, with all the roof kind of ripped open. Okay? Now I did an enhancement. I also tilted it slightly to the right to straighten the image out. And here's the first enhancement I did. And what I've done is I've basically really upped the contrast and played around with the brightness settings, and I've also gone around it a bit with the light and darken tool just to outline the shape slightly, just so you can see the shape. I'll zoom back a bit. It actually looks like a lot of these things. You get too close, it doesn't get any clearer. You've got to sit back a bit from them. They're low quality photographs to start with, and they're quite heavily damaged by NASA. They're compressed down, and a lot of the information is lost. So what I've done here is to try and restore some of that information by enhancing the image and brightening some parts, like the roof here and stuff like that. So now it looks to be like a sort of cabin cruiser, like you would see in the harbour, a gin palace sort of thing that rich people would go on and get pissed and drunk, and then drive around the harbour annoying all the real yachts people who were in proper boats. So that's what it looks like to me. I could be wrong here, and it may well be that this is actually a boat, but there may be something else behind it that's kind of crashed into it or something, because there's a load of tangled stuff here, but that looks like it's above or behind the boat, but there's simply not enough detail in the image to determine what is going on there exactly. I did another enhancement. It's just a little bit more enhanced than that one. Oh no, that was it. Sorry. This is the first enhancement, where I've really hardly done anything to it. I've just sharpened it a bit and up the contrast. And that one I just showed you was the later one. But it's hard to tell what's going on here, because I can't make out whether this bit here is joined on. There's like a big sort of blue square thing there. But that may be something behind it. It looks like it's behind it. But you can see what looks like a cabin that's been squashed here with windows. And you can see the little struts between the windows here. Yeah, the roof support. And it looks like this top part of the roof here has been ripped open. It's almost like it's been hit by a missile or something, or there's been an explosion inside it, or it's just been tossed around and smashed, or something is smashed into it, like perhaps a rock, or another boat could have been near it and been tossed into it, and it's a real tangled mess. I mean, the front end looks in pretty good condition, if this is a boat, and it does look like a boat. It looks fairly neat. I mean, there's some damage to the image here, so not everything we're seeing is actual detail of the boat. So a lot of these upright lines are probably compression marks where the images are compressed. You can see them going through here, and they're evenly spaced like a grid, and you get this on a lot of the Rover images. So there we go. I thought I'd try and keep this fairly short, this one. It looks like a speedboat or a cabin cruiser of some sort, and size wise not really sure. When you look at it from further back, I mean, it's probably a kilometre away at least from the Rover, so it must be pretty big. It must be pretty big to actually show from that distance. I'd imagine about 50 foot long. It could be a lot bigger. As I always say with these things, it's very hard to determine the actual size of these things because we don't know the exact distance. So, but when you zoom back, I mean, obviously the Rover's down here. That's about a kilometre away, maybe only 500 metres. It's really hard to say exactly. I'm guessing it's somewhere in between that. It might be 700 metres, something like that. So this is quite big. It must be around 50 to 100 feet, like the last boat I showed you. Probably a bit smaller than that one. Very hard to say. Answers on the postcard as usual. What can I say? It looks like a boat that's wrecked at the bottom of Mount Sharp in what was a lake/stroke riverbed. And there does seem to be some liquid water in this area, small puddles of it, and bits of standing water. And the thing is, this is so low down in Gale Crater, it's 4.5 kilometres below the surface of Mars. and it does have geothermal properties, which means it's much warmer than most parts of Mars. So I would fully expect there to be still some liquid water here, as I've said many times before. And there are other interesting things here. I mean, I'm probably going to have to come back to this Sol, because there's so much stuff in this background, and a lot of it's pretty vague, but there's some weird structures here, and it's all this kind of white pasty colour. Now, a lot of this may well be mineral deposits, I appreciate that, but there are some crazy structures in here, and a lot of them look like boat wrecks or wrecked buildings or all manner of things. It's really hard to tell exactly, but there's a lot of stuff to see here. I thoroughly recommend this image, and it's one of my favourites because it really shows a long sort of section of this lakebed here, and there's what look like multiple boats down here, possible boat wrecks and bits of aircraft and that kind of thing, and collapsed buildings, that kind of thing. It's all over the shop. I couldn't actually do it all in one video. There's too much. There's way too much stuff here to actually put in one video. You'd probably have to do 3 or 4 at least to cover it all. So there was that thing there. It's just by that southeast sign there. The little annotation there is just to the left of it. And I'll show you once more the enhanced version of it. As I said, all links will be below, so you can check this out. You've got to kind of ignore some of these upright lines because those are compression lines going right up through it. But a lot of these details don't match up with those compression lines at all. So there is something here, and it does look like a cabin cruiser or something similar. Around 50 foot long, possibly a lot longer. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you soon.